This semester, we are going to analyze a question together, which is, how do societies behave? Why do we do what we do? What motivates us? What drives us? And there have been different theories as to what drives human behavior. Okay, so let's go over some theories. The first theory comes to us from religion. And the idea is that we are all driven in a war between good and evil. There's a good side to us and there is an evil side to us. There's Satan and there's God. We are constantly in a battle in ourselves. Do we move towards Satan or do we move towards God? And that's the core of human civilization. So religion is meant to give us the strength to show us the path towards goodness. Okay, that's one theory. Another theory comes to us from biology. Okay, and the idea is sex. We want to pass on our genes forward because that's the point of our existence. If we cannot have children, we all die. So the point of our existence is to have children and have them pass on their genes to others. And for males and females, life is different because as a man, you have a penis and all you have to do is stick your penis into a woman and you're good. Okay, that's all you have to do. So you want to stick your penis in as many women as possible. And that's the point of your existence. But as a woman, your life is different because it's hard to give birth. It takes 9 months to incubate the child in your womb. And then childbirth is the most painful experience anyone will ever experience. And then the child, it'll take like 16, 18 years to raise a child to maturity. So it's a huge investment on your part. So as a female, you have to be very cautious, very careful about who you marry. And so life is a struggle between men who want to put their penis into anything and women who want to be careful about who they marry. Okay? So that's the idea of biology. Then of course you have the idea of race and culture. That the world is a struggle between these different races and cultures for dominance. And each race, each culture has their own characteristics. Okay? So maybe the yellow race, they're very clever, but they're very weak. And then the white race are brave, but kind of stupid. And the black people anyway, that's another theory. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying it's a theory that people believe in. Then you have economics, right? And what they believe is that we are driven by money or self-interest. We want to make as much money as possible, and that's what drives us. Okay? That's pretty simple. And the last big theory is the idea of liberalism. That comes from the Enlightenment. And here, the theory is that history is a progress towards enlightenment, to rationality, to truth, and to justice. So the inevitability of history, of human development, is towards paradise, towards heaven. And maybe, we go off track now and then, but inevitably, we move towards God. Okay, and this comes to us from the Enlightenment. We call this liberalism. Okay, so these are 5 theories. There are others, but these are 5 theories that show you the diversity, the variety of ideas out there. What I will do this semester is present to you another theory, which I call game theory. And my argument to you is that game theory is the best way to understand how humans behave. What drives nations, what drives societies, what drives humans. Okay? So that's my argument to you this semester. So the entire semester, we will study game theory. All right. So what is game theory? Game theory is very simple. The idea is that there are 3 components to a game, just 3 aspects to a game. There are the players, the participants. Yeah? Then there are the rules or the constraints. In mathematics, we would call this the boundary condition, okay? The limits to the game. And the third aspect are the incentives. Basically, how do you win this game? What do you get from this game? My argument to you this semester is that if you study all 3, okay? If you figure out who the players are, if you understand the rules, you understand the incentive, then you understand how the game works. And then therefore, you can predict how the game will turn out. If you learn game theory, there'll be 3 major benefits to you, then 3 things will benefit you. The first benefit is that you become a better person, which means that you are a much more thoughtful person who can better analyze yourself and the world around you. This allows you to make better decisions. This makes you much more curious, much more moral, a much more imaginative person. So one benefit of learning game theory is you become smarter, and therefore you become a better person. Okay, that's number one. Number two is you'll be able to understand the world that we live in, because this world is kind of stupid. Okay, so you may have heard that Donald Trump and the American military went into Venezuela for no good reason, kidnapped a president of Venezuela, which is against international law, and then brought him back to New York City where he will stand trial. It's really stupid what happened. But then our class, it's not meant to say this is stupid or this is wrong, because we all know it's stupid and wrong. We're trying to figure out why this happened and what this will lead to. So we will be in this class studying and analyzing current events to understand how the world really works, why people behave the way they do, and understand how the game of the world works. So we'll be looking at the war in Ukraine. We'll be looking at a new war between Israel and Iran. We'll be looking at what's happening in South America. We'll be looking at the conflict between China and Japan. We'll be looking at the relationship between the United States and China. Okay, so this is relevant to your life because you will eventually have to work and live in this really screwed up world that we live in. And the third benefit is once you understand the game, you will have predictive powers. You'll be able to understand how the world will develop. You'll be able to analyze your own life and understand how you will develop. And that gives you control, sovereignty over your own destiny. Long struggle to learn game theory. I'm a lot older than you are. I have a lot more experience than you, okay? But I want to show you how to look at the world through game theory. Another phrase that you learn in school is, I'm going to teach you how to think critically about the world. Well, I'll just teach you how to think, okay? So this is all very abstract. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use an example of a game to show you how game theory works, okay? All right, so let's use a really simple game, okay? Let's imagine there are 5 boys and 5 girls. They want to get married. So these are the players. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide them up into male and female. Then what we're going to do is we will rank the males and the females. So we're going to rank 10 players into 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so how do we rank them? Well, we rank them according to their attractiveness using 3 criteria. The first is genes, the second is wealth, and the third is status. Genes is very simple. It means that you're good looking, it means you're tall, it means you're healthy, you will live a long time, okay? Pretty simple to understand. Wealth just means that you or your family have a lot of money. Status means that you have a lot of friends, you have a high status job, you come from a really powerful family, okay? So these are the 3 criteria that we can use to judge a person's attractiveness. And then what we can do is rank them from 5 to 1. 5 means really the best, 1 means the worst. And we can rank all 10 according to these metrics. So according to biology, what we call evolutionary biology or evolution psychology, we're always trying to find the best genes to procreate because this ensures that our genes pass on. So remember that men have a penis which they can stick into anything. Women have to give birth, so the strategies are different, okay? So basically number 5 is trying to have sex with all 5 women, right? That's his strategy. But female number 5 wants to ensure that she only gets 5. So these are different strategies. And all 5 of these females should try to procreate with number 5, okay? But we know you can't do this. It's suicidal. Why is it suicidal? Because the human rights couldn't survive, right? It'd be idiotic to do something like this, where all 5 women are just trying to marry this one guy, and maybe him, okay? But these 3 are eliminated, because then your society would collapse. You couldn't have that many children. So this can't possibly be true, right? So let's figure out what should happen. Again, number 5, he's trying to maximize the game. So he's trying to sleep with all 5 women. The problem if he does that is these 5 know they're all being played. And they recognize that this guy is probably an asshole. So 5, the best woman, is like, you know what? There's not much of a difference between 4 and 5. So I'll just go marry this guy. So number 4 is gone. And number 4 is like, you know what? 5 is probably making a good decision. So I'll just go marry number 3, right? And then what happens now is that 5, by trying to marry all the women, is stuck with the worst choice, right? So that's kind of stupid for him. He's stuck with number 1. But guess what? If any of these guys try this crap, the same thing happens to him, where 4 is like, you know what? I can't get 5, but I'll try to get 4 and 3 together. And then 3 is like, screw you, I'm gonna go and marry 2, 4 is gonna marry 3, okay? Then he's stuck with 1 as well, or he's just alone. So if they try to individually maximize their outcome, they all get screwed in the end. So the only way out of this is that they cooperate, okay? And the best way to cooperate is basically 5 is like, you know what, screw this, I'm not gonna go after 4 or 3, I'll just have number 5. 4 is like, yeah, I'll just go marry 4. No dating, no games, I'll just go marry 4. And 3 marries 3, 2 marries 2, and 1 marries 1, okay? And the world now is perfect. Everyone has a husband and a wife, and they can now just have children, and the world is perfect. And this is actually the best strategy for all the players, right? We call this Nash equilibrium, okay? Nash equilibrium just means that you always reach a state in which all the players maximize their outcome, the Nash equilibrium. And so the world makes sense now. There's a problem with this though. The problem is, in real life, no one does this. In real life, no one actually follows this rule. Natural equilibrium is just a theory we made up. But in real life, that's just not what happens. What happens in real life is we choose to be suicidal. So let me tell you about a game I played. So last year, I was teaching this class, and I asked the boys and I asked the girls, pretend you're now 30 years old, right? Your parents are pestering you to get married, and you've been on the dating market for 10 years. There's really no one that you think is perfect for you. Imagine that you want to get married now, and tell me what is the minimum requirement you need in order to agree to marry someone else, okay? What's the minimum? And then I have the boys and the girls write down a response. The boys were pretty simple, right? Well, you know, as long as she likes me, and as long as I can put my penis into her, I'm good, okay? It's that simple. Guys are like, yeah, I'll settle for anything. Girls were different. Girls were like, okay, if I don't love him, if I'm not even attracted to him, I need about $1 million a month. This makes no sense, right? So in theory, we should follow the Nash equilibrium. But in real life, what happens is this. All the girls want this one guy, okay? And maybe number 4. They'll settle for number 4. But 3, 2, 1, they don't want. And we know because just look at the world around you. Look at these billionaires, right? Like Elon Musk. How many wives does he have? How many children does he have? All the women in the world, many, not all, but many, just want to marry actors like Brad Pitt, billionaires like Elon Musk. And 3, 2, and 1, what do? Well, they watch Netflix, they watch porn, they play video games. They've given up on life, okay? They're like, we don't care. We call these people incels, right? Involuntary celibates, because basically they've given up on life and life has given up on them. So this entire competition is between number 5 and 4 for all the women in the world. And this is, again, suicidal. This will lead to the death of humanity. And the question now is, why are we suicidal? And so let's look at game theory analysis. The players, the rules, and incentives. We know what the players are. The players are doing stupid things. The rules, we know, okay? But the incentives is something that we have to think about. Why are they behaving like this? And the answer is because they're not interested in sex or procreation. What they're interested in is status, okay? That's the game they're playing, status. I don't want to marry someone to have children. I want to marry someone so I can take a picture of her and post it on Instagram so I can get a lot of likes. I want to marry someone so I can walk with her in the mall and all the guys are jealous. I want to marry someone who I can brag about. It's a game about status, not a game about sex or procreation. People are not being rational here. People are trying to maximize their status in life. And that's why everyone's behaving like this. She may be the eldest woman in the world, but she's still like, you know what? It's still my choice whether or not to have kids. And having kids is a pain in the ass. So if I'm going to make the sacrifice, this guy better be good looking, okay? Or this guy better be rich. Otherwise, why would I want to have kids, okay? So this is why people behave the way they do. If you think about this way, what you recognize is that people are rational. But to understand why they're rational, you have to figure out what the game is. But then this leads to us to a question, which is, okay, well, clearly this is wrong because if we behave like this throughout human history, we wouldn't be here today. How is it that we have this game today and we're gonna die, but we must have come from somewhere. We've been around for like a long time. So how is it that humans have survived for so long doing these stupid things? And the answer is because the game changes over time according to the superstructure of society. The superstructure is what determines the nature of the game. Superstructure, just think about the big picture, right? How many people are there? Is society wealthy or poor? Are there enemies to this society? Okay, this is the superstructure, the big picture, demographics, economics, culture, politics, religion. And these things together is what determines the nature of the game. Example one is you have a low population society. Okay, low population is like maybe 200 people, okay? A village, basically. They are poor and low technology. Low technology means they don't have access to clean water. They don't know what hygiene is. They don't understand what germs are. So it's very easy for a woman to die in childbirth. Low competition. Low competition just means that there are no competing villages against them. Okay, so that's one kind of superstructure, the early superstructure of human society. Okay, then you have maybe growing population. We're talking like maybe 10,000 people, 20,000 people. They are now growing in wealth, growing wealth. They have some technology, meaning they have access to clean water, and they have high competition, meaning that they're competing against different villages and societies around them. Okay, that's another superstructure. And the third superstructure is overpopulation, okay, which is the world we live in today, okay, where in China you have 1 billion people. That's a lot of people. Too much wealth, okay, but with wealth you have inequality, right? And then you have high technology. This high technology just means that every woman who gives birth will not die, and every child born will live. And then you have something called an equilibrium. Equilibrium just means that yeah, there's competition, but they're not going to go to war against each other. The world is basically peaceful. And according to superstructure, the game is going to change. So let's go back to the game. Okay, we have 10 people. In a low population, poor society, guess what? They're not going to date. What they're going to do is they might get married, but they're going to have sex with each other. Why? Because as a woman, the only way to ensure that your child survives is if all the men in the village want to protect and nurture the child. And they will do that if they believe that the child could be theirs. So the woman will maybe have a husband, but the woman will also choose to sleep with other men to disguise paternity. Does it make sense? So there's no dating, there's just lots and lots of sex in order to maintain social cohesion, okay? Now, in a superstructure number 2, there's no dating either. Why? Because this society is in competition with other societies, and they need to have as many children as possible. The solution here is to have arranged marriages. Arranged marriages. You know, who cares who you marry? Just have lots and lots of kids. There's no dating either. Just have lots and lots of kids. You marry who your parents tell you to marry. You marry someone that you know. Superstructure number 3 is the one we live in. And here you have a dating game. Because the odds of you obtaining status is really, really low, okay? And the only way that you can change your status is by marrying up. And that's why you have a dating game. A dating game is an opportunity for you to find someone better than your social demographic circumstance can suggest. And that's why you have decreasing fertility rate. Right, where over time, because of the dating game, society will collapse. So now you're the government, and around the world, women who are wealthy, well-educated, are refusing to have children, especially in East Asia. Right now, the fertility rate in China is about 1. The replacement rate that you need is a 2.1. So just to maintain your current population levels, every woman in China needs to give birth to at least 2 kids. But right now, on average, women are choosing to have 1 kid only in China. And the worst thing is that this trend is increasing. So 5 years ago, the fertility rate was maybe 1.7. Now it's 1. Okay, so the trend is very, very negative. So governments all around the world are trying to figure out what to do. How do you convince women to have more kids? And what we've discovered is it's impossible. We can pay you more money, like they do in South Korea. Guess what? It doesn't work. Because people don't want money. They want status. And status is a zero-sum game. Money is infinite, but status, power, is a zero-sum game. So we have overpopulation. We have too many people competing for too few status positions. The moment you give women choice, they choose to improve their lives by marrying someone better. Not all, but most. And so over time, what happens is your society collapses. If you look at history, the best indicator that a society is about to collapse is if the women who are wealthy and well-educated, if they refuse to have children. It's the same. This is what happened to the Romans who collapsed. This is what happened to many empires. This is what's happening around the world today, in America, in Britain, in Europe, in China. Okay, and this tells us that society is collapsing. So in other words, what this really is, these superstructures, it tells us the life cycle of a civilization. So this is when civilization is young, then it matures, it grows, and then it collapses. And if you look at history, all civilizations go through this process of birth, maturation, and then collapse. And there's no way around it. So the power of game theory is that just by studying one aspect, okay, if I just study this game, all right, I figure out who the players are, the rules, and the incentives, I can figure out what the superstructure of the civilization is. And then once I have these two, I can now figure out where it came from and where it's going. That's what I want to teach you in this class, how to analyze the situation so you understand the players, the rules, and incentives, which will give you insight into the superstructure so that you can figure out where it came from, and then you can also predict where it's going. So, but you can also look at the superstructure and figure out what the game is being played.